It's free at last, free at last. Red Bulls, I technically have. I have season tickets for like 30 years. At the beginning of the year, I sold them all to my friends. In February, they did them up and out. So I really actually don't have tickets to the World Series, but you know, I'll be this somehow.
You can't like just have one.
No, I can't say I'm like, no.
So I mean, you're not like Rudy Giuliani, whatever Yankees fan you get, has the hat on, sitting down in the best seats in the house, talks to people on TV all the time.
No, I went to one of the playoffs in New York with the individual manager. Marty comes from a different background than John. What's going to happen in my public schools? We've made a lot of progress in the last few years. When it's still not perfect, we take every kid. Every kid that comes to the door, we educate. There's some other programs out there. Don't take special needs kids, English learners. They have 100% graduation rate. I'd have 100% graduation rate also if I didn't take those kids. I take them all. My job is to educate all of this guy. That's the key.
You have to win first. You care who wins.
Huh?
You care who wins.
No,
You don't.
not
Are
really.
you going to vote?
I'm gonna vote.
Who are you going to vote for?
This question's been asked me every time I
Which,
look.
let's put it this way, which candidate is more like you in terms of
Neither one.
you're okay.
I'm unique.
So you're not going to tell us?
No, I'm not gonna tell you no. No,
You don't care what it is?
huh?
You don't care what it is?
I don't. I have ideas, but I'm not gonna tell you what to vote for. See, I think, Brian, when you become mayor, it's a different world than outside, the person's side legends. Well, I challenge each one of those senators, congressmen, and president, not to take this salary. Federal employees are suffering, they should suffer also. They would come to a conclusion much quicker if they were suffering, but they can't continue to get their health care, they can get their pay, but, working guy, they're furloughed. They might get paid 6 months down the road, but they have to meet their mortgage payments, they have to feed their family, other obligations they have. It's unfair. Washington has to stop the policies about Democrats and Republicans not talking to each other. That's when government doesn't work. How do we get things done, government? It's about collaboration, it's about working together. That's how government works best. When you try to do Democrat, Republican, we're not going to, O'Neill, Ted Kennedy, and those other folks, they did a great job of bringing people together, but they didn't agree with. And that's why we have some great legislation out there. I don't think this country will ever have further great legislation passed. I mean, Obamacare, is it perfect? No, but it's a start. Yes, like same-sex marriage, right? A lot of stories written in the paper, right? I didn't get 2 phone calls on the issue. Sometimes the media blows these issues up to beyond what they really are.
No.
Yes, they do. And this wasn't, I can type off. I back if I'm more conservative neighborhoods in the city of Boston. And I get up there and start leaving. Maybe because, I have a trust factor up there. But I just believe you can stand up and say what's right, and that's how you get along in this business. Once you start being cute and try to, maybe go around the issues, that's when you get in real trouble. I mean, I can go on and tell you many other ones where they want to cite special needs housing. I stood up for that. All the elected officials there were against it. No, it's not going too far.
Because of the.
Hey, 77 days, and then one, I'm not here. Next guy, I'll have to deal with Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, the owner of the Chick-fil-A, really heavy sponsor for anti-gay legislation and movement. And I just said, we don't belong in this. I said, not quantity either. I said it, and I know a lot of folks in your business, your old business, who they brought Chick-fil-A chicken into my office. They try to get me to eat it.
Where did you buy it?
Went outside, there's Chick-fil-A's around here, but not Boston. But it was one of those great issues, and I had fun with it, and just like Walmart. Walmart's another one I said no to. Because, they might be a little cheaper, but think about what they do for the employees. and how they treat their employees. I want to make sure they treat my employees, the people we talked about earlier, people about the middle class, how the employees stay paid, and what benefits they give. I said it right after I saw it, I'm sorry. I said, I chose the words, he was not, oh well. But something has to happen in Detroit. When it takes one of the police officers 90 minutes for a call, 40% of the streetlights are out. I mean, when the pension is way out of whack, the union contracts are exorbitant, you know, and the financial, the first thing American States claim bankruptcy. I got, you know, my set of a bow tie, right? I got all these bow ties sent to my office. And Drew Faust was the president of the office, sent me a beautiful bow tie. And I said to her, I called up and said, now you have to show me how to tie it.
You got so you mentioned Harvard. I understand Harvard, Northeastern, Boston University. They've all made pretty serious proposals to you. They would like you to come and work there. And I think in different capacities in each case after you leave office. That's the story of that.
I have several offers from universities to go over there to the universities and do some things on government.
Those three?
Northeastern, Harvard, BU, Suffolk. There's a couple of others that's still trying to get me to talk to them. But I'll make a decision in the next couple of weeks.
Do you say government, lobbyists?
No, I'm not going to be a lobbyist. One thing I will not be is a lobbyist.
Well, what do you mean by government?
Be a lecturer, have classes, and also put conferences together for some of these universities. My interest, but my real interest is to do something with young people. I've had, my whole career, I spent a lot of time in schools. I created Camp Highview. I camped with summer kids in Long Island, Massachusetts. And, we have 400 kids in July, 400 kids in August. We track those kids all year round. We gave those kids opportunities to turn their lives around, and a lot of them have, and gone to college. And right now, personally, next couple of weeks, created a program. I want to pay more money than I thought I'd make. I refuse to. This isn't about money. It's not about money, let me just tell you. I've never made a lot of money, but I've been happy. It's about things I do for kids, things I do for the city of Boston. That's what makes a difference. Money never made a difference to me at all. I mean, I'm going to still live in the same little house I lived in Reedville. I've lived there for 35 years. I stay there. I'm not going to move downtown to a condominium or anything like that.
Never got a house in Cape, never had a fancy car.
Right.
You never bought a house in Cape, right?
No, I haven't got a house in Cape. I've got a house in Florida. I just got one house. The Angels takes good care of it. I'm a home and egg. We feel like it's true. So I'm going to go to bed, go up next month, eat.
For those of you who don't know, Reedville is such in Hyde Park. If you look at the map of Boston, it looks like it should be. At rush hour, you can get to Lowell faster than you can get to Reedville.
Right. It's true.
One of the things in the news now, Suffolk Down.
No, not last week's. I was sick last year. I mean, my wife planned this trip for 3 years. And she's from Sicily. I've never been to Italy, many times, I've never been to Sicily. So I said to her, okay, it's your trip, you plan it. And so we went on the trip. I got a very yellow boat. It was a cruise. I came home and I was sick for, I was in the hospital 5 weeks then, and 3 weeks in Spalding. They found I had diabetes. I didn't know I had diabetes. 4, and right now, medically I'm okay. It's my legs get a little strong. You sit in a hospital bed for 8 weeks and try to fill up those muscles. It's only my legs that are the problem. My brain's still there. I'm still active. I've still got a lot of energy, and I'll be working hard. But it was a terrible, difficult time for my family. Those 5 weeks. We were lucky with Boston. We have all the great hospitals in the world right here, and they're very good to me.
You look great, and that's wonderful. But you have a lot on the long list, with some chronic, something that just come and gone. Do you think the stress and the pressure of being mayor is affecting your health? I mean, it's a tough job.
It's a great job. The way I did it, see, I got in for re-election. I did a mayor's schedule, which was 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But Menino's schedule is a little different. I get up at 4:30 in the morning, I get home at 10 o'clock at night. I get home at night, I'm on my meal, my reading and stuff. So I get 4 or 5 hours sleep. My therapist, when I was going through therapy, she says, you know what all this is? 20 years of beating your body. You just continue to work all the time. I love the job. That's why. I believe when I took my oath of office, it was to serve people. When people want me someplace, I try to go. Whether that's just one of us, looking for the newspaper coverage or anything like that. I did a lot of events, the newspaper media never covered.
Well, they used to say Menino would go to yoga in an envelope. I've seen your schedule. It's brutal.
Right? You know, it's just, that's supposed to look elected official. You can't hide. You know, the best thing about my schedule is I learn a lot from
I
people.
don't think he's going to write something about the rascal king, but tell us about it.
You know, Jackie and I, Brandon, I talk on 20 years as mayor, and it's on Amazon Gun Conference, on right now. Mayor of American City, if you want to buy it, it's easy. It's discounted. Brian knows about that, it's pre-sale. Jack and I put this work together. It's probably like 20 years as mayor, things I've been involved in. You know, the merger of the hospitals, which nobody thought I'd be able to do, and there's lots of other cities in America. Things like that.
Mr. Mayor, Carol Matika. I grew up here in Greater Lowell and now live in the West End in Boston. And if you were to be asked, what do you consider to be your one greatest achievement in 20 years, what would that be?
I think my greatest achievement is making Boston a different city. Boston was a real racist city at one time. I think I brought people together more than before. We understand its diversity now, and the strength of our city is that diversity, and that's one thing. You know, we said, when I took over, you know, Boston, racist city. You don't see that anymore. You don't read about that anymore. Because we're able to deal with some of those issues, giving opportunities to a lot of folks in our city that didn't have opportunities in the past. It's one of the things I'm proudest of. Bill Russell would never come to Boston, and I came here in 2004 and made state and media. The only reason I'm here is because of Mayor Menino. It's a different city than him and his leadership than previous leadership. I've already said it, I got my head kicked in because I did. It's interesting. I said to Menino City Hall when we were down at the waterfront, I got my head torn apart. Now, one of the candidates for mayor wants to move City Hall, move City Department to City Hall. It's a great idea. I don't get it. They're going to take rental space and pay rent to somebody. I'm confused by this business these days.
So you think it's a good idea?
I think it's great. City Hall, let me tell you, it's the ugliest building in the world. One magazine, Fortune magazine said that a few years ago. And on some floors, there's a fourth floor, and there's no fourth floor on the other side. There's third floor on one side, no third floor on the other side. The windows don't open. It's cold in winter, warm in the summer. The architecture is, wow, it's really fun. And
It wastes a lot of real estate. There's a lot of
I'm not going to be critical. And not be critical, because it doesn't do the city any good. We have a great city, Boston. And, you know, I think in this world we have today, the folks out there, our constituents, hate to see government, you know, public officials fighting, are being critical. They have enough problems in their own minds, but they have to understand that, you know, their elected officials are on their side, trying to make things work. And when they see this bitter pigment go back and forth, it doesn't help. I'm a firm believer in that. I try to always be positive. You know, I have to take a position, like with the marathon one. I was in the hospital that day, 2:50 in the afternoon. Doc was with me, Mike Navy was with me that day, and my police officers ran in and said, Mayor, they just blew up the building across from the finish line. Well, you know, I said something. I said, oh my God, what do we do? And I said, okay, now everybody stay calm. Let's bring everyone to my hospital. And let's figure out a plan. And then I said, I have to be out of here. My doctor said, oh, you can't leave. I said, well, Rebecca, I'm out of here right now. all the things that they had in me, I'm out of here. And so I went down to the meeting at the Western Hotel, the governor, the FBI, and Boston Police, the state police. I participated in that. They did a press availability, and I went back to my hospital room, and I said to myself, a lot of these people need help. How do we help them? And I said, we have to create a fund. But only one fund. We can't have 12 or 13 different funds out there. So that's how the one fund became a reality. And it was amazing how my business community of Boston came forward. We raised $61 million. We didn't ask anybody to give. Everybody volunteered to give us the money. And right now, we're working on, we have $10 million just given us recently. And over 100,000 people have donated to the one fund. And we're trying to, what's our next version of the one fund? What do we do for these people? Only for years out. Because, giving $1 million now, it's okay. But what are they going to do in 3 or 4 or 5 years? And, there's a lot of heroes that day at the Marathon Army, the police, of course, firefighters, but the volunteers. The volunteers, the people who worked in the medical tents, they're the real heroes of this whole thing. We didn't lose one life that went to the medical tent out to one of our hospitals. And my son's a police officer in Boston. He was at the second one when it happened. And he came to me afterwards. He dealt with some of the people who were victims at that time, now the survivors. And he had to come to the hospital on Tuesday. And he went upstairs to do an interview with some of the victims at the time. And he came down and said, Dad, you never want to go through what I went through. It was the worst day of my life, he says. And for my son to say that to me, I was really strong. And I went upstairs and I talked to all the folks that were in the hospital, my little wheelchair. It was great. But I didn't, that whole week, the governor, myself, the president of the United States called me 3 or 4 times during the week asking if we're okay. We really didn't know these two individuals, were they connected or not connected. And my job as mayor at that time was just to make sure that people of Boston knew, or people outside of Boston, that we were in control of the situation. That they weren't going to control our city. The Bruins called off the game. I was a little angry about that. Because that's what these guys want you to do. It's freeze your economy. Now, anything happened. The Red Sox followed up because the Bruins did, they had to do the same thing. But I just a little angry at that. But all week long, we had these conferences, and I kept on checking myself out of the hospital, and my doctors were going crazy, but that's okay. Because my job is made to be outside, helping people, reassuring people that I was in charge of the situation. The governor and I, one time, because the security folks didn't want us to be seen together in place, if they had, because at the time we didn't know what was happening. We went out to Logan Airport to have a meeting. It's a little cubby hole. And we met there to discuss what was going on, the information we had. And then we went out to Watertown and trying to get some information on what was happening. And came back. I came back to I was staying at the parking house at the time. And went back out again, to the call to say that we got somebody. Well, we went out there, hung around for 4 hours, nothing happened. We came back. The next day, same thing. On Friday morning, the governor called. Well, before that, about 3 o'clock in the morning, it was. We got these calls about a pipe bomb at Charles Street, or something at the federal courthouse, and all kinds of something on a train going to Connecticut. And the governor and I had a conversation, and the governor said we should do shelter in place. I said, what's the shelter in place? Asking all the residents to stay in their homes. And I said, well, because there's so many rumors around, and there's a lot of uncertainty this time. They had us come out to Watertown for a few hours, sitting around. And, so I was out of the hospital this time, went back to the parking house. I just got back, was watching some TV. Also, another call to go back out to Watertown, because that's where it was, the headquarters was. And we went back, nothing happened. We hung around there for 3 or 4 hours. And interesting, the Sheldon place, nobody opened their businesses. It was amazing. It was 100% quiet. Even Dunkin' Donuts was closed. You couldn't get a coffee. So we just were sitting as hard as places that I remember that. And so we left there, went back to the parking house, and then we just get there a few minutes. I said, we know where he is, we're going to go down. And so they said, we have to come back. So I went back again. Sat around for a couple more hours, and all of a sudden, my policeman, Sean, the policeman came to me and says, I was sitting in the car, he put his head in the car, and he says to me, Mayor, we got him. And that's when they got the perpetrators. One of them left, and there was a lot of stuff going on that each different department was in charge of certain areas to see, certain areas, Watertown, to check, and this was a part of the area, and they never checked the vote. And that's where he was. And Superintendent Evans, Billy Evans, Boston Police, the guys told him, stop shooting, because we didn't know what was in the vote. He didn't. And we got him. And then, one of the things I was proudest of, actually, as a media, you do a lot of things, you get a lot of criticism, you have issues with people. Over the police radio, one of the police officers says, Mayor, we did this for you. They did a heck of a job for us, those cops that day. They're really superstars. They got rank and file, the gang unit, the bomb squad, everyone. It was just very special. We all worked together. See, State Police and Boston Police work real well together on that issue. There's other issues I can't get the State Police to work with us on. But on that one issue, they were so supportive to working together, because the Boston Police been with it, dealt with these issues before. And so that afternoon, sometime on Fridays, we're going to move the shelter in place. And we did. So we went back out and we did the press conference. We were so proud of that day. Was, as I was leaving there, people were lining the streets, singing God Bless America, waving American flags. It felt so good. And then I go back to the Parkman house. I was living on Beacon Street. I look out my window, and Boston Commons filled with people celebrating. And then I said, okay. And then I get a call from the police and say, they're taking over Symphony Road, all these streets down in Fenwick. Man, what do we do? I said, let them celebrate. We're stuck in the house for 12 hours. It's a happy time for them. I let them do their thing. I let them do their thing because it was a celebration. I was so happy that it was over. A peace of mind. We kept them in the house for about 12 hours. And so that was a tough week for a lot of folks, but the thing that impressed me the most was how the people cooperate with us. They're really 100% cooperation for the general public. And the different police departments did a great job.